for a wonderful introduction to the entire panel. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Silray for coming up with a wonderfully themed conference, especially on the future of education. And at a time like this, when there has been a lot of innovation that's been happening within schools, especially when it comes to learning. Today's topic for the panel discussion is blended, personalized, and tech in learning. I'm really fortunate to be moderating a session where we have some erudite researchers, educators who are going to be talking more about all of these aspects. I would now like to, invite the panelists to come out with their opening remarks. I think 2 minutes would be in order for them to briefly make a statement about the theme of the panel discussion and the theme of the conference at large. May I now invite the panelists to speak and present their opening remarks. Padma ma'am, do you want to go first?
Sure. Am I on mute?
No, ma'am, you're audible.
Yeah, okay. Right. See, I have my experience and I'm going to talk about personalized learning as tools. The personalized learning is a tool in the blended learning space. So there are these tools and I'm very sure the creativity of the teachers in using these tools to bring out what they want to into the classroom. Now, a world where personalized learning will be the norm will be one where learning will be individualized, definitely, and also, very importantly, the pace of learning will be optimized. So I would like to make that my statement, and then I will carry on with what tools would help in a blended learning space, to bring this about.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Optimize learning.
Thank you so much. May I now invite Soumya ma'am to make her opening remarks?
Namaskar, everyone. Well, blended learning, we've been hearing about it for years, I would say. And what brought it round was the pandemic. However, the pandemic, we all responded to a crisis. It was a crisis response. It was more of an online mode happening right at the go, which we all needed to do. And it was good it happened. It's only been over a period of time that we've been able to bring about and are still bringing about blended learning in its true sense. And when we talk of blended learning in its true sense, it is not just purely content acquisition in an online mode. It is about things happening more in a synchronous nature. It is about all skills being incorporated in the entire curriculum framework. Like blended learning, you cannot just pick up any ready-made curriculum and decide to implement it there. It is completely a different curriculum design where all your rubrics, your lesson plans, they all have to be accommodated and modified to suit the online and the offline model, and also ensure, just as face-to-face teaching has always ensured, that there is a hidden skill curriculum in the broader curriculum framework. So all your skills, be it collaboration, communication, creativity, your thirst for inquiry. So we are able to harness all those skills of the children if we really want to take it forward. And yes, it is here to stay. It is the future of education. And I would definitely elaborate upon it, on how it takes us forward when it comes to the future. But yes, all your true implements and can only be successful with a solid agreement with the parents. All stakeholders are equally important, and technology now is the fourth stakeholder in terms of education. That's my opening remark. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Everyone will definitely agree that the pandemic has accelerated learning across all quarters, and that there is an increased impetus for people to understand how personalized learning and hybrid learning can come into the classrooms. At this point, I'd like to invite Vijaya ma'am to present her opening remarks about the theme of the panel discussion.
Good afternoon. Let's first ask ourselves, Why does this topic matter to learners with special needs? Because these technologies empower our children through lifelong inclusion in society, and it's a powerful force for their self-actualization. Personalized or assistive technology, may it be low-tech, mid-tech, or high-tech, is a must while mainstreaming our children, as they require various kinds of technology and other help to support and help them to be educated or to be included in a normal schools. It can be related. Oh, I had asked for a slide to be put in at this time. Okay, I'll talk about it later. It can be, the tech can be related to eating, seating, mobility, reading, writing, technology, or communication. Each diverse learner is unique, and solution at individual levels will support them to be on par with the class. Some of the pictures you see are low technology, but still technology need not be high-end to make a big difference in our children. Bright students with special needs who can be included in mainstream schools and colleges need tech support for their day-to-day life and for educational purposes. At the same time, complete inclusion is very difficult. We can try our best to include learners with special needs with different learning needs using technology and other means. It requires training not only the learners, but also the teacher, the peers, and other personnels involved in it. It is a big challenge. I can sum up by saying, when used appropriately, technology provides support for independence, it bridges the gap, it develops social skills and communication skills, and it reduces distraction in children. That's my opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for that. It's definitely set the pace for the kind of discussion that is about to ensue. The general format that we had kind of deliberated, which we would be following in today's panel discussion, is that I would be trying to pose some leading questions, and I would invite the various perspectives about that particular question, and then we will see how the discussion leads forward. So as my first leading question, see, it is quite obvious that education today has witnessed a paradigm shift. And when we look at schools, when we look at the educational spaces, every school will definitely say that it's taking a varied approach to learning. Now, in this context, where and how do you think blended learning fits in the whole gamut of things that have been happening in the educational space? Anybody's?
Yeah,
First.
I'll go first because I feel that when I'm talking about personalized learning, I would define personalized learning as something that plugs the gaps in the learning of the individual learner. Now, this will sound as though, and for a long time, personalized learning has been something associated with the remedial instruction or for special needs. You have after-school programs. That's where you have these, okay, they are slow learners, they have not up to the mark, and therefore they need to go. That is a myth that has to be broken, because we have to bring that into mainstream classroom. And for doing that into mainstream classroom is where you come into a blended learning space, where you have all these different tools available. So I think here the mindset of the teacher and the ability of the administrator to allow the teacher creativity to come into the classroom helps a lot, and need not necessarily be very high tech. There are simple things. So like Sarada ma'am before this talked about the 4 major learning. So we have a classroom full of students who are at different learning levels. So we have, so I would actually say that personalized learning is a tool that is in the hands of the teacher, and to use it into a blended classroom. So a blended classroom would look like a small mini lesson from the teacher one-to-one, and then and then a rotating platform where the students are allowed to do some independent work based on the skill the teacher has taught. And there can be some other students who did not understand all the nuances when the teacher taught, to be going into online, viewing the teacher's lesson again, because all the technology allows you to record the teacher's voice, listen to her several times. Like even the children told us, you can just plug in and you can listen to the class once again, what your teacher was telling you just when you are trying to figure out something. And so all this in one place, and you are having it, and children just moving around, is a wonderful platform where everything can happen, and you can see that everybody is learning and everybody is engaged. All the students are engaged. There is no question of some people being bored and some people going ahead. So everybody seems to be, and it should be allowed to, every learner is allowed to learn at the level that he wants it, at the pace that he wants to learn, which is what it should be. Because even philosophy on education has always told us that learning or teaching, I mean, nothing can be at all taught. It has to be caught. That's what that is the main essence. And so here the teacher's responsible, and I am sure I have my on all the creativity that the teachers have. This is going to be a wonderful. So one of the tools, personalized tool, which can enter into blended this thing, and with the pandemic, this has made teachers more acceptable to technology and online learning. So the flipped classroom method, where the teacher posts her this thing, and the flipped classroom method is different from a traditional one, where you at home you listen to the talk that you are going to you learn the lesson, and then you come and actually apply this what you learned in the lesson in the classroom, or do the exercises in the classroom under teacher supervision. That's what one I would find, and I think I'm sure Soumya ma'am would be able to add on how easy it is or how difficult it is to bring it into the classroom. Yeah.
I completely concur with you. I think Soumya ma'am has already started. Please carry on.
I will just add to where Padma ma'am left. Well, ma'am, everything easy also comes with its own set of difficulties and challenges. And I think that's the beauty of those challenges. Well, looking at personalized learning, where Padma ma'am left, what I would just want to add to that is that what happens when it, especially for a personalized learning, be it in a blended model or in a face-to-face model alone, what one does is, like in your curriculum framework, you have the age-appropriate year-end milestones drafted. Now, those are the benchmarks, those are the milestones which the children are expected to reach. And at their own pace, we have those tasks and activities devised in such a manner that each child at his or her own pace, as per their own capability, it is nothing about low or high. The activities are designed in that manner at different levels. And I don't want to use the word grades, the different levels, worksheets, activities, their collaborative tasks, the peer work, the group work. So the child goes through all that along with content acquisition happening. The content is where acquisition is happening. The children are learning through hands-on learning. You're bringing in multiple intelligences, because after all, we are catering to different learning styles also. Some child may learn in a kinesthetic manner. Some may prefer to learn through music. So we have your tasks, we have the tasks. That's where the educator's role is very important, that the tasks are designed to suit different learning styles, and children have an option to pick up that learning style, and at the end, measuring it to the desired, leading it to the desired milestones. So through that process, the child learns, and it is personalized learning happening, catering to each and everyone's individual needs. And as ma'am said, it is not it's high time we moved away from looking at it from a remedial point of view. When we talk of personalized learning, it means learning for all. So normally it is a tendency, if a child, like one tends to look at children who are average or below average. No, we have to keep those children also engaged who may wrap up a task in 2 minutes, which otherwise may have been designed for 5 minutes. So it has to be a very, very engaging model. And this is exactly when you are drafting your curriculum for a blended learning model, these things have to be kept in mind if we want our blended learning model to suit personalized learning also. And coming to your question, Vijay, in which you said the learning spaces in a blended learning model, how would they look at? Well, a given thing is you have to have a digital platform, which I think today is the easiest thing to procure. Next comes in your comfortability of your educators and the parents and the students with that platform. Because believe me, it is all parents have their own anxiety levels. It's not to say that since there's a huge digital divide in India, that it's the remote areas which parents feel this challenge, of procuring. There is the challenge of procuring. In the urban cities, in progressive schools, there are challenges like when actually the parents are wary, my child is spending so much time on screen. And screen time somehow has always been associated with children getting being lured into a world of uncalled, unforeseen risks. So that is something which you have to, have a good agreement. When I mentioned in my opening remark with the parents, there has to be a proper policy, protocols laid out of what the child will be allowed to. In fact, I want to mention one thing, that right from an early age, we tend to tell children, okay, Google this, just as it would be said, read this. Well, we also have Kiddle as a search engine, which, is more age appropriate for the little ones and slightly tends to keep away certain sites which Google may open on its own. So these are the kind of things, plus even do a cyber hygiene orientation with parents and students. Cyber hygiene, you following protocols, what can be the, I would say, what circumstances can you land up into it, and what can, be the after effects of it. So all this agreement has to be there in the blended learning model. And also, if I look at the future of education, we have moved to mobile labs. I see blended learning bringing into school education simulation labs. Through this pandemic, we've seen of how we've had exchange programs internationally. Here we are sitting on an international conference, cutting down cost of travel, cutting down time of travel. So the kind of these exchange programs which we can have globally, our school has gone ahead and done that with so many schools across India and even abroad. So, it's like, it's also a cross-cultural exchange happening. So these are some of the things where blended learning, which I feel where in the future it can lead into. And well, that's my submission on it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can I just come in 1 minute here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Taking in on what Soumya was saying about we telling the children Google it up and therefore the screen time. What I am very happy about is that the textbooks have become online now. I mean, so you don't have to tell the student to Google it up. You just go, the textbooks are all online. Textbooks are all coming to life with artificial intelligence. You have the textbooks on the screen and somebody is reading it out to you. The description is all coming in the form of diagrams. So the child is already engaged. So you don't know the answer. Your textbook is right there. So so this becomes like a homework. And in this, I want to mention that this need not necessarily be for the urban progressive schools. I am very delighted with the government launching the Diksha app. The Diksha app by NCERT and Ministry for Human Resource. It's a lovely, here is where your state boards have all their textbooks online, and there are video lessons. Even catering, I would not mention, but I would like this to mention that in the Tamil Nadu textbooks, they have in their language learning, they have questions where they poetry has to be learnt and they have to quote from memory. So if the poem comes out alive with somebody singing the lines, so that it makes the child learn. I mean, taking you back to how when you were infants, you were learning your nursery rhymes, or for the matter, when you're listening to your favorite playback singer, how well you can learn the song. So it is not necessarily that the screen time that the child spends is on dubious or something. I mean, if it's teacher directed, and the teacher says, "Yeah, here it is," and then I'm sure the moment the learner is inquisitive, the curiosity of the learner will drive him towards what he wants to learn, rather than, I mean, how long? Maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes or something he'll spend on other things, but he'll get back on track. I'm quite. And I'm also very upbeat about the teacher's creativity in creating a classroom with a very not very aggressive technology, but with a limited technology, but making it engaging, making classroom so that everybody is engaged. It's possible. It is to be please.
Sorry, Blended Tech caters to learners of different needs in the classroom. What we do in our school is, after a lesson is completed in the class, the whole thing is shown as a video. So there are learners who are not able to understand when you just speak about, the teacher stands there and talk about it, which many of them are not able to understand. When you present it in a video mode, the children get a full experience of it. And also there are some children who are not exposed to outside world much. They come to school, they go home. For such children, it is always better to show it, project it on a projector and show it in big scale. It helps them to understand and comprehend better, and they enjoy the learning experience.
Thank you all so much.
Very true.
I think, if you look at the kind of responses that have come out, it's quite obvious that personalization is not just remediation. And I think Soumya ma'am said it right, that it's learning for all, where every school has the independence to kind of set the context, keeping in mind the kind of learners that there are in it, and then design the learning interventions that are most appropriate to the audience in question. Thank you all so much for that response. Of course, you spoke a lot more, kind of throwing me off gear with the questions that I had in tow, but I think that's how emergent conversations usually happen. So I'll kind of scuttle and try to find the next possible leading question to all of you. We have spoken about, personalization of experiences, and in a world that is dominated by consumerism, every one of us, has experienced it in some form or factor when we've looked at Amazon or Flipkart, suggesting the next item that we should buy. Now, when we are talking of personalization, especially in the context of learning and education, what do you think a typical school is going to look like in the future? Considering that, the conference is also talking about the future of education, it may just be right to spend some time thinking about it and eliciting your responses for the same.
Vijay, if I may just respond to that, I think in my previous question, I mentioned that as I perceive from the city of Gurugram, the future of education, definitely we look at simulation labs, what I mentioned. And why I am saying this is also because, it's not just blended learning. I'm looking at it, especially at certain crucial days of how, like all of you must be aware of how schools in Delhi and the NCR, the papers have had it all, have just had to go again on an online mode because of the pollution levels rising up. So these are those crucial days. Till 2019, we had to declare, offs. 2-3 days holidays and all. In fact, it was something like it became as a big joke where the students started talking, when is the pollution festival happening now? So it was, one big joke happening here in Delhi NCR. But yes, looking at those days, or I would say flood-like situations which happen down south or wherever. If we have a very extensive blended learning model where all your hands-on are taken care of, then the education of the child does not suffer. You don't lose out on those days. You don't have to go on replanning and rescheduling your school calendars, which all of us from education fraternity would agree is a huge challenge. So I look at it from the perspective, okay, all hands-on happening in a blended learning model, synchronous learning happening, your infrastructure, it caters to it, your educators are tuned and trained for it. And the best way to train educators is to make them go through blended learning themselves. Make your parents go through blended learning orientations. Make students, obviously, they are naturally going to go through it. But first, we need to train our teacher. Whatever we plan for the child needs to be done with the educator also, because that, gives us at least one level of what are the challenges of execution, what are the inner experience which one feels. Is it experiential learning really happening in the true sense, or is it going to be something where it is going to be a cut, copy, paste exercise happening in the breakout room? So there has to be validity attached to whatever. If you're having children into breakout rooms, there has to be validity attached to it. Plus, when we talk of screen time, like WhatsApp and Instagram is popular with the kids, and parents, educators, all of us, we are all addicted to it. We did one beautiful thing. What the children were busy, obviously they put their reels and posts and everything on Instagram. So a particular project which happened in the online mode, children connected in breakout rooms, they connected on Zoom post school hours. We told them, okay, now whatever is your product, like they were making infographics and everything. We said, write out a story and post it as a story on Instagram. And believe me, when that happened, the interest level enthused, because it was something like my followers on Instagram and so many likes I'll get and all that. So we started using even these tools for their benefit. So it's like telling them also in a way how a particular thing need not always, how wisely you can use certain things and how unwise an addiction can be. So those are the kind of things. Plus sports. We cannot ignore that sports, physical fitness. So definitely then the school calendar has to be in a blended learning model in such a manner that when children are actually there spending on campus time, delegate that time more to physical fitness, to sports, to performing arts, to things which, you find as each school may find a different challenge. Some may find that, okay, no, for this particular science experiment, I have to have the students there in the physical lab in front of me. Perfect. So that is where entirely your planning goes. So that's how I look at the future of education, and how I see children, which they are already doing. They are creating podcasts. Ma'am talked about the Diksha platform. There are all online courses coming on in. Swayam has been launched by CBSE. And now we have this Veer Gatha project happening. So where, if children create all these things and when their work gets highlighted, so it gives them a lot of motivation, and learning definitely becomes far more engaging, more meaningful as they are going through that experience. So that's how I see, a school looking like, with a sports field, like sports field is there, your performing arts rooms there, not just a high-tech building. Not just that, having an equal balance of all, and with the child at the center, everything being child focused, and with your curriculum definitely being child-centric, because this will also make children, I think now is the time when children have become true owners of their learning process. It's make them, blended learning has taught them skills like self-management, it's becoming a self-directed learning also. When they are exercising their own options of what to do first, they are prioritizing their tasks. Okay, this is how I want to go about. And nothing can be more beautiful than asking your children, this is a project which needs to be done. Okay, you plan it out, how to do it. And this is all what is available. And what is it that you would require from our end? Let the educators learn from them. It has to be a two-way learning process now.
Yeah,
Thank you.
very.
And I add
Okay.
it from special learners' point of view. See, bright children with special needs can be included in mainstream schools. So they require tech support for their day-to-day life and educational purposes. School system should provide for easy access for these children. If they are wheelchair bound, they require ramps, they require bars in the classroom and toilets. The classroom has to be moved to ground floor, or they should be allowed to use the lifts. And some of them may need help with eating even. So all these changes has to be made. I have to share with you, actually few years back when first batch of our learners went to Christ College in Bangalore, the college people, they were so good. Within a short time, they built ramps, they provided modified bathrooms, they moved the classroom to ground floor. So all this made those learners learn very well, and they are all working now and having a good life. So these are all the basic infrastructure changes that will be needed in the classroom and the school premises.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I think,
So,
sorry, please
yeah,
continue.
I just want to add on that so in this new kind of situation where it is blended learning, and there is a lot of online, and the student doing a lot of learning at home, and then so when they come into physical classroom, I think the assessment should be also tweaked, and there should be differentiated, not only differentiated instruction but differentiated assessment. Here I would like to just add on to one task, that is during this COVID break, when the teachers were, when the school was actually online. This was I think about a student's own initiative, as well as I think a little bit input from the teacher, a biology teacher. The child had grown up a nice little garden at home. He had grown up a little garden, and then they were studying about different kinds of leaves. So he had made a nice scrapbook with all the different venation and leaves, which is there part of the textbook that he saw, a little bit of the learning that he saw. So I would give a complete A grade to the child. So whatever. So I think learning happens in various ways, various different ways, and each child's talent is different. So I think here the teacher's role plays really important, and the teachers need to share. So all the platform that the teachers get to, and the creativity of the teachers is immense. I mean, everybody wants to reach out to the learner. Every teacher wants to reach out to her students.
Yeah.
So I think she'll come up with her beautiful.
Thank you. I think, a lot of wonderful points have come out in the few questions that we've been able to deliberate about. I've been told by Anandi that, it's time to take questions from the audience. Now I would request Anandi and her team to let us know if there are any questions, or if there are any questions, we would request the audience to post it on the chat box so that we can direct the same to the panelists.
Vijay, we haven't seen any questions so far. So
Okay.
my call now is for the audience. Thanks all the panelists for this lovely discussion. And the audience, this is your time now to post questions that you would like to ask our panelists.
Sure.
Right. We have our first question from Gauri. How are you implementing blended learning in your school? And this is specifically for you, Vijay.
I think the last 2 years has been quite interesting. It is not that, the school has not been making inroads into using technology, but the last 2 years have definitely accelerated the way we have gone about it. For starters, when we knew it was online, like Soumya ma'am rightly said, it was time for us to educate ourselves as teachers on becoming more familiar with the usage of technology in a manner where learning is not compromised. So that was the first Herculean task that was in front of us. And everybody understands that different educators are at different levels. So it gave us a lot of impetus to focus on the basics, and also to invest a lot of time and thinking into the curricular design, like Soumya ma'am rightly said, to figure out what are the interventions that will have the most impact. So that is the way we went about it, but it's a long haul story. And slowly we began to realize the kind of tools that would be most appropriate for us. So the selection of tools, being discerning about it, was something that had to be done. And people have to get acclimatized to using those tools for the kind of impact that they desire. So that was also something that we deliberated about. And there was a lot of collaboration and thinking and experimentation that we had to do. And I'm not saying that we've reached a state where we've kind of figured it all out. It is still a work in progress.
Thanks, Vijay. I have the next question here, which is really interesting, and I'll look to you to direct it to the right panelists, or maybe all of them can also comment. What is the world where everyone goes through personalized learning look like? Paint us a picture.
Yeah, I think Vijay ma'am should take that question first. Ma'am?
Can I have the slide, please?
Yeah, Satya, you need to help out with that.
No worries. I'm sure it'll be up in a few seconds.
Me once again. Can you repeat the question, please?
Ma'am, I think the question goes something like this: does blended learning styles cater to all the learners and to the different learning styles? How
No,
does
I don't
one?
think. I
Yeah,
think
the
it's
question, I can
already a
repeat it for you,
question.
Vijay.
Yeah.
The question was the one previous to this on the
Yeah,
chat box.
previous
What is the
to this.
world where everyone undergoes personalized learning look like? What does that future look like for us?
Personalized. The goals and challenges of every learner is different, and it has to be personalized. Technology does not mean it has to be high end and people have to spend a lot of money on it. It can be low tech or mid tech also. But at the same time, no tech can solve every problem the child has, but it can provide access and opportunity and promotes independence and encourages empowerment. We have some of the pictures showing you tech examples. So I think so.
I think the key here, if I may just interlude, is that there are so many ways in which the future can help us, and not necessarily all of it is going to look like robots teaching us things. It can be quite simple, and as long as it is done in a thoughtful and mindless way with everybody in mind, our future can look really more inclusive, and tech can play a really important role in it. I think, speaking about a comment, I did receive a comment from one of our speakers, Janani, who made a really important point. And I think, Soumya ma'am, you had also talked about, how important physical fitness is, despite having all of this technology and digital learning access to us. So Janani's point is similar to it. I think her point is about social skills and how children, as they continue to do online learning, their social skills can be suffering. Her own example is that her child has learned more as a student, but perhaps things like resilience and communication might have suffered as a result of that. Your comments on it, if any?
If I may just add to that, see, social skills definitely, especially for the little ones, like I don't know the person who's raised this question, how old her daughter is, but especially for the little ones, especially at the entry level, because these are children who never saw the school campus. And for them, the school actually became just a laptop. So social skills definitely have suffered, but then what we've also tried to do is even as now things have opened up, but I'm just sharing one or two the things which we did last year when it was a proper lockdown happening and children couldn't step out or whatever. So we first had the educator connect one-to-one with the child, video call. Then we had, two kids together where the educator tried to play games with them. In fact, on a Father's Day, what we did was to give them that outdoor experience of how life is outdoors, especially I'm talking of the little ones. We had a camp evening. Now, naturally, we could not step out. Nobody was allowed to step out. So we requested the parents, and with sheets or their moms' wives' saris, the dads put up a tent in the balcony, or in the lawn of their houses, where the father and the child were there. Everyone connected on a Zoom platform, same menu, we sang songs together, played games together. So it was like, face-to-face socialization
in person was not happening. But what we tried to do was, where children definitely were learning, they actually started becoming comfortable with their own peers, firstly. Secondly, if one person is talking, he's saying, I want to play this game. Now, this is a normal thing, you see the children fighting. Nahi, pehle ye khelenge, pehle wo khelenge. So it was like, where we guided them. Okay, we'll all take turns. So things which we would have done, in an in-person classroom, teaching them adaptability, teaching them social skills to some great things. We tried to do that. We organized, we told them, okay, why don't you have a family picnic in your lawn? You can't step out. It was a proper lockdown happening, but at least these things, where, so that they became somewhat familiar, and now that the schools gradually started opening up in Haryana, well, we did see that when these children came, obviously all of them at different levels, some were able to recognize and become friendly with a peer, maybe slightly easier than another one, but then gradually we played games, like we told the moms using their dupattas to create a hopscotch, or take floor chalk or something, create a hopscotch. So everybody's room during the class had a hopscotch drawn with whatever was the available material, and here was the teacher playing hopscotch. So now it's your turn and you play hopscotch, so those are the kind of things which we've tried to do. So I just thought I'll just share those things of how,
Absolutely. I mean, all that sounds really fun. Yes, sorry, ma'am, please go
I
ahead.
can share some examples too. We have these teenagers, they're already, special needs teenagers. They don't have friends in the building. They're sitting at home. And so we had these simple cookery classes online. So it became so interesting. Everybody had some vegetables cut, kept ready, and they would start cooking. And there was a comparison, and everybody was very happy. They made some snacks and they shared it with their family members. They posted pictures on WhatsApp. We had yoga lessons, we had Zumba classes. So, and these classes help them learn turn taking, allow others to give them chance to talk. All these, lot of social skills developed in these children, and they had great fun during these sessions.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing those
Do we still have
examples.
some more time, or are we already well past the?
I'm afraid, Vijay, we don't have time for any more questions. So I'd just like to quickly thank everybody and wrap this up really quickly. Thank you for all these examples. I did want to share three takeaways that I personally had from this, and I'm sure our audiences had as well in hearing all of you very experienced people talk. One thing is, of course, you just need to be creative and build sports, interactivity, and physical fitness into your blended learning. Cannot ignore it. That was for me top point for me, actually. The other one, really, we talked a little bit about how we need to have a certain amount of comfort with accessing and also using digital platforms, not just for students, but also parents, educators, etc. And not all screen time is bad as long as we have proper education about it and protocols for using it. And lastly, and we've touched upon this several times during this chat, technology does not have to be high tech to bridge the gap. Vijay ma'am showed us a few examples of that on her slide. Now, thank you, everybody. And thanks all of you for this session. I'd like to ask the audience what you think about, what you thought about our panel discussion. Maybe you can share some of your key takeaways as well. So why don't we quickly go on to our mentee.